Welcome to another exciting episode of the Contractor Business Builder podcast. Today we have the honor of having Luke Loescher. He is the CEO of Sitewise Accounting. What if your financial system could actually help you make better decisions instead of just giving you stress at tax time? Luke's team isn't just doing your books. They're helping you set up scalable, construction-focused accounting systems that give you clarity, prevent costly mistakes, and actually help you grow. If you're a contractor still using spreadsheets or relying on your mom or wife for bookkeeping, you'll want to watch this entire episode because it could save you thousands of dollars. Knowing your books, knowing your numbers, super critical to a healthy business. Welcome here, Luke. How you doing today?
Good. How are you, Derek? I'm doing well, and it's exciting to be here and recording this episode. So awesome.
Yeah, financials is so vitally important to contractors. And if you're like almost every contractor out there, you've got to an end of a project and you look at the bank account and it's like, where's all the money, right? Even if your books may say you're profitable, it's usually nowhere to be found. So knowing your numbers and knowing how financials run in a business makes that difference of actually having some money at the end of the day or spending it all on, everybody else. So start a little bit at the beginning with your story and what inspired you to, specifically help with, construction business accounting.
Sure, absolutely. Going back to the very, very beginning, like I graduated school in 2012 with a master's degree in accounting, started working with a company doing accounting software for local governments here in Michigan. And through the course of the next 10 plus years, of working with them and doing consulting with some of the government entities, I got to see firsthand how job costing and project accounting really make a difference in the scope and success of an individual construction project. So, like here in Michigan, the road commissions in the counties handle like all of the highway projects across the state, and so I got to see like, okay, when they were redoing like I-275 in Detroit and other highways in Michigan, like I got to see from the kind of the controller side of things, like how do the financials play into budgeting? How do they play into project success and cost overruns and all that fun stuff? I got to see kind of firsthand working in support with them. Trying to teach them how to do job costing if they were somebody new coming onto their team in the consulting role. So then fast forward to 2022, 2023 here, I decided, hey, I've gotten some good experience. I know project accounting like the back of my hand. Why don't I go out and look at trying to either build an accounting firm or build a construction accounting system specifically for contractors. So
Mhm.
when I went out and explored the market, I saw, hey, QuickBooks Online is good. It's a system, it's accounting, it
Mhm.
works
Yeah.
for the most part, but it doesn't do job costing very well. Like it keeps everybody using the Excel spreadsheets or using another system and trying to integrate the two with job costing. So I was like, okay, well, I know how to code, I know accounting. Why don't I create a system that's all in one, all encompassing, and try to put that together? So I went ahead and did that over the next like year and a half between 2022 and 2023, got a first version out on the market, and then kind of went to go do sales, and it hit a brick wall where people were like, "It's really cool that you did this, but I don't want to buy it because I like my
Mhm.
QuickBooks."
Mhm. Yeah.
Or my accountant uses QuickBooks Online, and that's how he gets into the software to do taxes and stuff. I need to
Mhm.
stay on QuickBooks Online because of that. Or
Yeah.
like I just don't trust another system because you don't even have 10 clients in the marketplace right now.
Mhm.
So why should I trust your system over QuickBooks Online? And probably
Mhm.
the biggest one was it was just going to cost me too much time and effort to move to your system from QuickBooks Online. I've already got
Mhm.
5 years of data in it and things like that. So after all those objections, I decided here at the beginning of 2025 to really just focus on the service side of things because that's where I can provide the most value to construction companies is by being their managed accounting team and not being a software provider, but being more of the service provider and helping
Mhm.
them understand their numbers on a more consultative level, as well as working with them hand in hand as a partner in their business. So that's kind of how we work is we work in your business as your accounting partner and not as an external accountant who only talks to you once a year. But
Hmm.
we work hand in hand with your team and we have processes in place to handle job costing, handle construction payroll, certified payroll, all those good things. We can work
Yep.
with you on project budgeting and building out financials for projects. We run the gambit of the entire construction accounting kind of job requirements.
Perfect. No, that's fantastic. And yeah, lots of variety of experience as far as like really getting down to the nitty gritty. If you, having built that software, even if it maybe didn't take off and you pivoted, changed directions, it'll give you a very close understanding of exactly how the data moves and what's important to contractors. Any business owner that's in construction trying to get job costing in place knows how complicated and messy it gets real quick, and how difficult it is to achieve. And yeah, QuickBooks, there's ways like workarounds, but it's not intuitive or ingrained like in the system. It's not meant for construction job costing of projects and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to have someone helping you build and integrate that if it'll keep you alive forever if it's done well, and you can like once you have that level of knowledge and like numbers and ability to see, are we profitable on this project? Did we estimate properly? Did we go over on framing or drywall or finishing or whatever, right? You can really pinpoint exactly where the business is strong, where it's weak, and that it has like a virtuous cycle with the estimating side of things as well. So it's very easy to get just more competitive in one sense because your numbers are accurate, but then also making sure you're not shooting yourself in the foot by underpricing projects or parts of projects. And that stuff can really stay hidden unless you have job costing in place. It's just like you if you don't have that in place, you don't know where money's going. And that's, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people get there. I've been there when I was contracting. At the end of the job, it's like we were supposed to make, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it just doesn't really seem like we made anything. So, what's going on here. I'm sure you've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, all that stuff. Where do you see like common mistakes or critical mistakes that the contractors are making with their financials or financial management?
Probably the biggest one I've seen has been either doing job costing in Excel and then trying to marry it into like QuickBooks Online projects or customers and jobs and that sort of thing. Because doing that, it can work, but it's very manual and very time intensive. And so you as a busy contractor, like don't have the time to really sit down for, an hour a day or so, putting numbers into an Excel spreadsheet and hoping and praying that like it all kind of works out at the end.
Yeah.
You really need a good solid system in place to be able to easily at a glance look at the numbers on a project or even like on your phone when you're on the job site take a look and see, okay, this house build needs some more drywall. Where are we on our drywall budget? Can I afford to, cart in some more drywall for the house at this time? Having a good job costing system that's not in Excel or not in an offline capacity really comes into play there. And then I would say probably the next biggest one would be borrowing money from one project's budget to put into another project's budget. The old adage of robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
I've seen that time and time again where like project A has an under budget in drywall, but project B is over budget in drywall. So we're just going to move project A's budget to project B. But wait, project A is not done with drywall. And, I didn't realize that until a month down the road. And now project A it has an overrun and project B has an overrun.
Yeah.
It starts a downward spiral that's very hard to get out of because you have to do more and more projects in order to keep that rolling. And it becomes a snowball, basically. It's a huge snowball effect if you do that sort of thing. So, good cash flow management, cash flow planning, project budgeting, obviously, job costing will help keep you from put in the safeguards to help keep you from doing that, getting into that snowball.
Yeah, definitely. And I like what you said there, where if you're not watching the numbers closely or you're kind of just moving budgets around, you get into a lot of hot water really quick. And I found when I was running projects and had good job costing, you often sometimes, unless you like really understand it, you don't realize till the end of the project we're running over here because you start kind of bored. It's like, okay, well, we're kind of over budget, midway through, but we've got a lot of budget. You always have, I don't know, for me, I'm an optimist, so I'm a little bit, rosy future kind of guy. And it's like, well, we got quite a bit in finishing, or like we can probably allocate from, and then once you start getting close to the end of the project, the schedule goes over, you have to call guys in to come fix things or finish off little stuff that you thought you closed out, certain budgets, and now you got to bring guys in. So it's difficult, and it's why you need someone who's like knows what they're doing to set this up, and not just like set up the system, but also be able to be that advisor of like, how do I like look at these numbers? What do they mean? How do I improve over time, or on the next project or whatever? So for people that like, we throw around job costing quite a bit, can you maybe just like really explain simply what job costing is and what are some of the components of like getting it in place?
And the way I explain it is job costing is basically the system of recording expenses and revenue against a particular project. So all it is really taking those costs, the Home Depot receipt, we have Carter's Lumber out here as our main like lumber yard, and other vendors and subcontractors, and taking all those costs and accumulating them together under the umbrella of a project, matching that against the budget to see is part of my cost codes, over budget, under budget, and it's just really the system of finding out how profitable my projects are at any given date. One big thing that I do also see is contractors not including the revenue and the job cost. They think it's just the expenses, but really it's the whole project. So you could basically think of it as like building a project income statement or a project P&L, and being able to see from the revenue minus the cost what the net income is on that project should equal out what your margins are going to be.
Yeah, for sure. I like how you mentioned that the income side of things is also important for job costing. Often we'll think of like just how much have we spent on all these different, budgets or line items or whatever, but knowing how much you've invoiced for and how much money is coming in on the project is important for cash flow, and knowing where you stand on
Mm-hmm.
like the client facing side as well, if you're underbilled or overbilled or what have you. So that's definitely an important component of it as well. Now, I know this is a big struggle, and like a lot of clients of mine either don't have this in place or they've tried it and they kiboshed it because it was like it was just too much messy transactions. And then you've got like your bookkeeping and accounting, which is like your company financials. But if you have integrations and things, the information get mixed up. People may be using like project management software or spreadsheets, and it becomes very messy. So that's like one side of it, is the data and software side. And then there's also like the human side of like, I think a lot of people as well think that, and with AI, it's getting better for sure, but there is still a heavy human component to have to categorize, is this expense for the Smith project or the Jones project, or is
Mm-hmm.
it drywall or framing or whatever, right? So why do you think like that is such a big struggle, or how does someone go about tying that all together, or like actually getting it to a point where it'll start to run well, and not just kind of give up on it halfway?
Yeah, I do see it as it's still a big manual effort to try to manage those job costs on a large project. It's easier if you have some certain systems in place. So like if you have a spend management platform, the way that their platform works is when a expense comes through, it hits the system, and then you can categorize it right in their system before it even hits your accounting system. So if you can catch the expenses kind of as they happen, it becomes a lot easier to maintain the job costing and the recording of that. The other thing I've seen is also on larger expenses, like with Home Depot, you might get just an invoice at the end of each month with all of your costs. It's
Yeah.
having the PM go in and do the job costing for those invoices. And a
Mhm.
lot of times the project manager knows, here's the cost codes that should go to that particular invoice. And there's some systems that are out there that will present that in a way that is just like a review kind of thing for the project manager to go in and quickly do it as a batch entry or a batch
Mhm.
edit. It doesn't take as long if they keep up with it. The biggest thing is like keeping up with it. So once you get a system in place, if you let it go for a week or two and you're a real busy contractor, like you might think the system is broken or doesn't work very well.
Mm.
But if you keep up with it once a day or even twice a day, like you might only spend an hour or 30 minutes to job cost all of the costs for that particular day overall of the project that you have running. So it
Yeah.
definitely is work up front to get it going, but once it's going, it's kind of a flywheel effect where as long as you
Mhm.
keep up with it, it gets easier and easier to do the job costing as time goes on. And I mean, I'm a techie guy. I like AI as much as the next person, but I still am like, well, AI is good for a lot of things, like importing an invoice that has a bunch of line items into an accounting system. Here at SiteWise, we use a system called Maker's Hub. And
Mhm.
what they do is they do accounts payable management. And basically, we can suck in a PDF that's like 65 pages long. And they use AI to read all of the lines and figure out all the information and present it in a kind of a review format so that the project manager can go in and say, hey, here's this big 65-page invoice. Instead of having a clerk key it in, we just had AI look at it and do a
Mhm.
good job at bringing in the initial data, but then here just review it, take a look at it. And a lot of times too, we work with vendors to say if you're not putting the job name on the invoice, most vendors will put a job name on an invoice. And as long as we have a job name and a PO, we can kind of match it up to an existing PO in an accounting system. And if that existing PO is already job costed, then it just becomes a match and a match and you're good to
Mm.
go.
Yeah, perfect. I really like what you said about having the project manager review it at the end of the day. I've found that that is the best way to have it set up as far as like the human side of things because project manager may or may not have estimated the project. Typically, I like to see project managers estimate projects or at least be involved with that so that they know the cost going into it. But they're usually the most experienced person on site and they know, did we just complete framing or finishing or whatever? And
Mhm.
they're going to be the best to actually categorize those transactions. Whereas, like, if you're like leaving it up to your bookkeeper, your office admin, they don't necessarily know what's happening on site, right? And plus, they probably don't have a construction background to even really know what half of the stuff is sometimes. Like, you get this list from Home Depot or the hardware store and it's got this hex flex half inch this and they're like, I don't know what that is, right?
Mm, yep.
So very important. And then also having those approval, like the project manager will, kind of categorize it, but yeah, having it easy and streamlined for them so they can just approve it. Because there's often times too where maybe, honest mistake, plumber or electrician or framer, whoever is like messed up their invoice and invoiced either too much or too little, or maybe they invoiced early and they're not right quite complete yet, right? So having that approval process to make sure that you're not paying for things that you shouldn't be. Also, that money's not going out, premature and before projects are completed or what have you is super important and where you can lose money and not even realize it at the end of the day, especially if you got a lot of projects going on and multiple project managers and things like that. So can you maybe talk a bit about the difference between like a typical bookkeeper accountant compared to someone like yourself who has actual construction knowledge and works with construction businesses? Because I've seen all sorts and sizes, and I find that it's challenging for people that aren't familiar with the construction industry, like bookkeepers and accountants, to understand it. So can you maybe talk about the differences or
Sure.
what's kind of sets like a construction accountant apart?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the biggest thing that sets a construction accountant apart from a regular bookkeeper or accountant is that knowledge of the construction industry and being able to, at a glance, look at an invoice or a bill and if the project manager hasn't job costed it, well, maybe they can use their knowledge of the industry to understand what some of the job costs are and kind of help the PM along those lines. Like I wouldn't say rely on your construction accountant to do to do your job costing. I
Yeah.
agree with you that the PM is probably the best person to do that. But if
Hmm.
an invoice slips through the cracks or something like that, like it's possible that a construction accountant wouldn't have to bother the PM with something if it's just a straightforward one or two line item invoice. So that's one side of things. The other side of things is getting the financials together in the way that banks and other lenders need them for doing drafts and drafts against a construction loan or AIA invoicing, some of those specialty items that a regular bookkeeper may not understand or know how to categorize. There's certain ways inside of your P&L on your cost of goods sold, for example, like you want to categorize your labor materials and then also your subcontractor costs separately,
Yep.
whereas like a regular accountant may just lump them all together under one COGS account and not
Yep.
track it kind of separately. The other big thing is a work in process. There are certain accounting adjustments that you can do for work in process to help the cash flow be smoother throughout the month. And if you don't do those adjustments, you can sometimes get into a dangerous territory where your work in process sheet says you're 80% done, but that's bringing over, or that's not including certain costs or certain items from the last month that aren't completed yet. So doing
Hmm.
some accounting adjustments for those, like it helps to bring things in a current way into your work in process schedules so that they stay up to date and current. It's things like that that really set aside a construction accountant from somebody who's just either a tax guy or just a bookkeeper who
Hmm.
understands how to do bookkeeping and accounting, but doesn't understand the other side of the financials.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the work of, I mean, there's a number of like components that are just kind of unique to construction and really important to have. The work in progress as well. Like I know that often, especially for contractors, you get large deposits. Sometimes if you get a large deposit before your year end and you don't have like a work in progress or make an adjustment, it can look like you're highly profitable because you've taken on this deposit. Meanwhile, you haven't fulfilled any services yet. So, I mean, depending on the deposit, but you could have 50, 100,000, deposit and you're going to pay taxes on that, even though services haven't been rendered. It's just a deposit. It's not working capital necessarily. Small things like that, I mean, is super important. Plus, I think one of the issues in the industry is contractors, builders, typically they don't know all this financial stuff, right? So if they've hired a bookkeeper that seems good, they're, typically you give them the shadow of the doubt that they know what they're doing. But unless they have knowledge in construction, they're just going to be missing that. There's going to be a knowledge gap there essentially. And
Mhm.
as a business owner, unless you're very like financially knowledgeable, you're probably not going to know what that difference is without actually talking to someone specific like yourself who knows the ins and outs of the accounting on the construction side. So we've talked about like setting up job costing, QuickBooks, and project management softwares. What's your software stack of choice, or what is some good software that people like contractors could go and check out that you think is worthwhile or a good fit for construction businesses?
Sure, absolutely. So I would say like probably a couple weeks ago, I would say QuickBooks Online plus like Notify or JobTread would be the premier stack that we would run for
Yep.
our clients. But since I had a conversation with the owners of Control Core, that system is all of those systems combined together. So it's
Yep.
basically one system to rule them all.
Yeah.
It includes the accounting, and honestly, I would say that that's going to be your best. It's construction focused,
Mm.
so I'm starting to switch my own clients over to using that system from QuickBooks Online. And like they've experienced night and day difference with their reporting, being able to look at their job costs on a much more granular level. Because one of the things with QuickBooks Online is with the cost codes, you might put them in as products and services, but if you have hundreds of cost codes, that slows the QuickBooks system way down when you're trying to do
Mm.
data entry. As well as if you have lots of projects, their project tracking and their project system doesn't necessarily go across years. So if you have projects that
Okay.
span multiple years, like QuickBooks Online will only show you the income and expenses for the current period, for the current
Mm.
12 months that you're in. So with
Yeah.
Control Core, you can see the history of the project and the items of the project across the length of the entire project, as well as you can more easily track costs through their own spend management platform if you decide to use it. So honestly, I'm excited about Control Core and using them for my stack.
Yeah.
I will still recommend QuickBooks Online if somebody wants to use that platform, or if somebody's like, I'm not sure about Control Core, like, but honestly, like Control Core is going to be best hands down. And I'm not just fanboying or trying
Yeah.
to trying to promote them. I mean, I've used their
Hmm.
system and I'm getting trained myself on how to implement it and use it. So it's going to be a line of business that we offer here in the near future. Probably by the time this podcast airs, like we'll have a service offering for implementing and managing Control Core for construction companies.
Yeah, that's wonderful, super valuable. And yeah, kudos to providing direction to contractors out there because I know I'm hearing about new software almost daily nowadays. Like there's so much new software coming into the space that it really is hard to know what's good, what's proven, if you will. I'm not familiar with control core, so I can't speak to that, but I know like different software will suit different people as well, depending on the size of your business, where you're at, your tech level, as well as, I mean, who you're working with, right? Like if you're working with someone like Luke here, who's got, a certain setup and way to do things, then it makes sense to go with specific software because it's just an easy implementation process. Not something I would recommend contractors. Just, I mean, you can try to do things yourself, but as you know, with any, DIY type project, probably not going to get the final product that you're looking for, and it's going to be a whole lot harder and difficult than you expect. So definitely get some professional help there. Yeah, can you share a success story of one of your clients that you worked with? Maybe kind of where it started and how it's going.
Absolutely. So I have a client that's an interior designer out in California, and yes, we do work with clients across the country. So if you're not
Hmm.
local to Michigan, we can still service you over Zoom and whatnot. But
Hmm.
anyways, I have a client in California who's an interior designer where we implemented Zero into their business at the beginning of 2025 here. We chose Zero because they're small enough that the monthly fee for QuickBooks Online was just a little bit too much for them. And so Zero is definitely a cheaper platform, but still as feature focused as QuickBooks Online is. It's the Australian version of QuickBooks Online.
Yeah, down under.
So anyways, we implemented Zero into their system, into their business. And also, we started them on doing our managed accounting services. And previously to that, they didn't have any accounting system at all, even Excel. They were running their business out of their checking account, which is a dangerous thing to do, especially with like an interior designer. They've got some large projects that they do, and they weren't doing job costing at all or any of that, even though it's a single owner. So they're running everything off of their checking account card. So after we brought them on Zero and cleaned up their 2024 data for tax purposes, I got a message this year from their tax accountant who we worked with to get their 2024 and 2025 estimated taxes handled. He was telling me that you guys have implemented the system in such a way that it's makes their job so much easier. It's like night and day difference. He's like, you definitely understand what you're doing and know how to code things and figure out the P&L. And like, I basically just had to review your work. And normally I have to bring about 20 or 30 accounting adjustments that need to happen to the owner. And this year, like we worked out a couple on the phone together, and then they were able to do their taxes, no problem. So
Yeah.
having an accounting system and somebody who understands construction accounting on your team really helps with like not just loans or running your business, but also the external tax accountant probably won't charge you as much, if you as if you bring them a shoebox full of receipts.
Yeah.
And you definitely get your taxes done in a more timely manner. And
Yeah.
so, like I would say that's been our biggest client success story is that that client is really happy with our work, and especially since they heard back from their tax preparer, like they're ready to go for the foreseeable future.
Oh, that's wonderful for sure. And yeah, big stress relief for the business owner. I know myself, like when you get to tax time and you don't want a list of like 10, 20, 30 different transactions or receipts or stuff you got to figure out, right? And you're just
Hmm.
running down rabbit holes at that point. Yeah, one or two adjustments and you're good to go is phenomenal. So that's fantastic.
For sure, for sure.
So if people want to get in touch with you, Luke, we're going to put the link to your website, sitewiseaccounting.com, in the description here. What's the best way for people to reach out with you or connect with you?
So you can email us at hello@sitewiseaccounting.com, or if you're one of those who likes to pick up the phone and call, our phone number is 866-648-8408. And of course, as Derek said, you can check us out at sitewiseaccounting.com.
Perfect. And yeah, we'll have links in the description of this wherever you're watching or listening to it. Any final words of wisdom or last thoughts that you'd like to get across, Luke?
I would just want to say if you're trying to manage your accounting on your own or have an office manager handle the books among the myriad of other things that they have to do, that is a real recipe for disaster as you grow and scale. You really need a scalable solution, preferably without the cost and risk of building it in-house. Our team is well versed in construction accounting, and we've got systems in place at Sitewise Accounting that really are designed for contractors and to help our team service you the best that we can. So, if you're looking for an accountant or want to take the accounting load off of your office manager, definitely reach out. We do have a 20% discount that we're offering to podcast listeners. That link will be in the show notes as well. And so, reach out, we have free consultations that we offer. So definitely get that scheduled and let's talk.
Yeah, definitely wonderful. Then take Luke up on his offer there, 20% off, which is really generous. And thank you for that. Very least, get a free consultation, learn a couple of things, save thousands, tens of thousands of dollars and a couple of headaches. Sounds like a win-win across the board here. Thanks so much for coming
Absolutely.
on, Luke. Appreciate you sharing everything with us today.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Derek. Great being here. And I think we had a good conversation.